Okay, welcome to the Brad Bodnerchuk podcast. My good and old, not in age, but I've known you for a while now. Franicis Piche, welcome to the show. Ça va, ça va?
Ça va très bien. Thanks, brother. Yeah, like old. Yeah. It's been a while. What, at least 13, 14 years, I guess,
Man, it's been a
minimum.
while. It's been a
Yeah.
while, but to give the listeners some context, you and I have we obviously have kept in touch in regards to social media and stuff. Thanks for social media, but we haven't really connected in years. And my life
Yeah.
now is dramatically different than it was when you and I were more actively getting together and hanging out and sharing. And your life, at least from what I've seen, is dramatically different as well. So
Ah, it's
I
just social media. It didn't change. Just kidding. No,
so
it
I'm
changed. Yeah, it changed a
I
lot.
was I was super intrigued to have you on the podcast. One, just an excuse to reconnect with you, but I also was super intrigued to have you on the podcast because I feel like in watching you from a distance, there are so many things that we are aligned in, and so many things that I can still learn from someone like you, as my listeners can as well, because of what you have been sharing through platforms like social media and like your website and your business, and we'll get into all that. But bring us up to speed and bring myself up to speed. It's 2021. I'm gonna say the last time you and I like connected was probably 5 plus 6 plus years ago. So
Yeah.
what's gone on for you? I know for myself, it's been like a divorce, and
Yeah.
now a new family, moving provinces. What has life been like for you in the past, say, 5 years? Give us the cliff notes or the Coles notes, if you will.
Cliff note. I would say, well, I think my journey, a big change for me was about 2014 when I did you Unleash the Power Within with Tony
Mm-hmm.
Robbins. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, I ended a relationship, and I think I decided to really invest in myself. And then, not too long after, a year after, or during that year, I randomly, because
Mm-hmm.
we believe in synchronicities, and that was my coach. It was a regular guy that, like me, going to a coffee shop. We were the regulars of the coffee shop, and then at one point, instead of just saying nothing, I say, "Hey, what do you do?" So I'm a coach, and then I felt at the time that for me, the coaching that I had was more on the accountability side, and it was not really moving me forward because, I felt that there was something underneath. You can grow so much on the surface, but then you gotta go where maybe it's not that pretty. So I said, you know what? I just want to experience that. So it was a really good moment to hire my coach after. I still have the same coach, amazing individual, Gary Mahler, if you guys want to know, and being coached by another great coach called the Ultimate Coach, Steve Artisan. So there's like almost a lineage of great people that I had the chance to have their wisdom and insights. And so at one point, Gary, a couple maybe 4 years ago, gave me a challenge, and now I know that this is a challenge that I feel everyone should do, or I don't like to use the word should, but let's just say it's a powerful exercise. And the
Mm-hmm.
exercise was that at the time I reconnected with a past love, and then it didn't work out. It was a fiance, and so we tried 5 years after that, didn't work out. So I thought, I just want to do what I want, and I just want to talk about happiness. I want to talk about communication. And then my coach said, "What about the big dream?" And it's almost like, oh, why are you asking me this now? Like I've had you for 2, 3 years. Now you're asking me this question. It's like, yeah. So, and then he said, okay, I'm gonna give you an exercise, and you're not gonna like it. Do you want to do it? I'm like, what is that question? Like, and then he's like, do you want to do it? So, yeah, I'll do it. What is it? And then I didn't expect what he said. He's like, okay, I want you to do nothing for 3 days. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, nothing. And so what am I supposed to do? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So no social media, no journaling, no looking at the training, nothing. Like, so basically, yes, you can meditate. Yes, you can see your friends. And then at the end of this coaching session, he said, you know what? Now go 5 years from now in your agenda, and I want you to write something on this. I'm like, okay. And so, what do you want me to write? He said, I want you to write, this is the day that I die. So what are you gonna do in between?
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, wow, because he really like, when you really consciously decide to go through that path and say, what if?
Mm-hmm.
And there's only 5 years. So who do you want to become? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the point of being in this life? Like, really,
Mm-hmm.
what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Is it about making lots of money, not sharing? Is it like what is it? Like, who do you want? Do you want to be with someone? Do you want to be alone? Like, what is it that you want to accomplish? And so at that time, it was my dream. And just like I knew that it was okay, I'm gonna go big, and that's what I want to do. And then he said, I don't want to have the answer. We'll talk in 3 days. And so in that process of, receiving the download, and now you want to jot it down and you
Mm-hmm.
can't because, it's supposed to do nothing, and it was crazy. And then after that, I had so much clarity. This is why I feel that for the ones that are feeling stuck and they don't know what's the next step, or, they feel that they're kind of in prison because, they're on the treadmill and they don't know, like, it's risky, the only reason why we're not getting out of jail is because we think that on the other side is one unknown, and we don't know what to expect. So we
Mm-hmm.
might as well stay in what we know, in the misery, and just don't go forward, right? Until the day that you start to expect that being out of it is better,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna stay. So if you expect that it's better, then you go for it. So I just decided, I'm just gonna go for the documentary project that I was always thinking of, like interviewing the people on resilience and their story, and share the inspiration so people can feel that they can do anything they want while they're on Earth, and then that have that sense of freedom. And it's a journey. It's been a journey. It's a thought, right? It's just a thought, and then
Mm-hmm.
all along, what happened is that I created the business. It's called Resilience Element, and then there's some partners that came along, and some partnership fell through, big amount of money that was supposed to be there that didn't happen. And that was kind of more last year. But then this lesson was wonderful because now it gave me the power of creation.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if the ultimate power you have is this power of creation, which means like you can lose everything in a day, but you don't even care because I know how to create this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, this was the most beautiful gift. And along the way is that now I'm in California. I have a visa to be in US. So that's I made that happen. I created that, and now this is where I can expand on the documentary project, which is really this year that in my mind I decided I chose, and then the group coaching program and coaching on mindset with resilience. And now that's what happened in 5 years. And I just came back from Joe Dispenza event in Mexico yesterday, and it was magical. It was magical. So that's the cliff note, my friend.
Wow, there's a lot there and a lot to unpack, and I appreciate you doing it in such a concise way, and so many things that you said and have just shared, like really, like I had a visceral reaction to it. I actually feel my body reacting to some of the words that you shared, and if you're open to it, before we get more into that piece, something that both you and I have in common, which is something I'm really digging deeper into with myself and in my own relationship, but also with some of my clients as well, is understanding relationships, both relationships professionally, intimately, but also internally, relationship with ourselves as well. And I know for myself that when I went through, part of me, my separation and divorce, it was a 10-year relationship, 7-year marriage that I decided one day I could no longer be active in. I could no longer fulfill the role of being this person's husband and partner. And as painful as that was, and as difficult as that was, it was the most freeing moment of my entire life to that point, and has created the reality that I have now, which is a beautiful partner who I love deeply, more than I've ever understood what love could even be. And I have two beautiful, healthy children. And it all came from what at the time was like a horrendous amount of pain and shame and all these other things that are so built into us from a societal standpoint. So, can you just share with me and the listeners what that process was like for you going through a separation? And did you find that, as challenging as it was freeing? Or how did you masticate, digest all of that in your life?
Yeah, it's a great question, brother, and we can we can talk about that for hours. Because there's so many different distinctions every time, right? Like,
Mm,
I mean, I'm single now, and it gets better in the sense that every time that I meet someone, it just gets better and better and better. And I think along the way, like you said, it's really about the most important relationship is with ourselves.
mm,
That's the first one to focus on.
Mhm.
And it took me years to understand that. And actually, just like fresh news, it's just, this person that I talked about, I have a suspicion that actually right now she got married last year. I think that that didn't happen, that she divorced maybe, but we just reconnected as of 2 days ago.
Oh wow.
And so to talk about the choices that you make, and then I realized that in my own body, which I'm sure like you felt it, right? Like
Hmm.
when there's a decision that doesn't jive. And I asked myself, okay, so if it was available right now,
Hmm.
would I, like, on the surface, of course I'm gonna say, yeah, 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 beautiful woman, like
Hmm.
we had good connection, laugh and everything. But then if I ask myself, would I really, how would I be, and if I go through the day with her, like go through the time, and then I just knew it was not the same frequency. We're not matching anymore. So I think, so to make your decision, like that's huge, because you decided to invest, you decided to be you, you decided to go for it. And I think one of the things that I've learned along the way for me is like one of the relationship from that broke a
Hmm.
while ago is that I was supposed to be married like, well, I got engaged twice, so so
Hmm.
I know how to get a yes, but the rest we'll work on the rest after.
That's awesome.
But the first time it was that decision from my previous partner, and she was very courageous, like you, just decide that it was not a good thing to do 3 months before the wedding,
Hmm.
and I didn't have that courage. I didn't have, and it was a really an amazing decision. And what I think I understand, and I think that people like you understand, is that when you make a decision like that, it's not selfish to make that decision, because you're also serving the other person.
Hmm.
And sometimes we decide to not make that big day, big news, because we're afraid that the other person's going to be hurt. And I mean, like my godfather would always say, you're not making omelets without cracking eggs. I mean, it's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
You got to do it. And then to realize that actually in love and with your intention, like the intention is always compassion and love. And if you do it with this intention, then the other person is also being served.
Hmm.
Because who would want to be loved by someone that actually has no more love?
Hmm.
Like, why would you accept that for yourself?
Hmm.
And so if the other person on the other side would know that it's been 5 years or 6 years that actually your flame is like this,
Hmm.
I mean, I would want to be with someone that loves me fully, So you actually served her, you served yourself, you served her,
Hmm.
and you just like you were courageous. So that's
Hmm.
that's few things like that I've learned, that for me it's being authentically you,
Hmm.
and know and make that decision regardless of the fear, but more about like what's in my heart, and the heart knows the answer. So, I mean, we
Yeah,
went
it's
in
true.
different directions, but I
No,
mean,
no.
there's a lot to unfold in just relationships.
How much of what you do with your clients and how much of what you have done with yourself is working on increasing that level of awareness?
Well, yeah, that's a good question, because the first step is really awareness, right? So I
Hmm.
think that some people are not necessarily ready. I mean, my clients are people that are already aware that there's something, right? So at least that, and
Hmm.
that's the most important, and two, committed to make a change, and go through the potential pain, because for them the pain now is too much. They know that actually on the other side of the jail
Hmm.
it's better,
Hmm.
but it's still painful to go through it, right? So I think, yeah, so the clients that I work with, the level of awareness is very important, and how to increase it, I think it's just with time, with conversations,
Hmm.
in the language. Like I really pay attention to how the language is a dead giveaway of beliefs. Like now you already know what they
Hmm.
think, what they believe, and then you
Hmm.
ask questions, and then you unfold bit by bit. You can't just chew a whole thing and say, this is, you're going to go from this level of awareness, like boom, right there. So it's one step at a time. And
Hmm.
I think what's important is also understanding that each time you make a step up, you get to learn the lesson of it. Like it's not just, oh, okay, I got it. Like next, do you really understand that?
Hmm.
So for example, I'll give you one concept, and we can spend months on that. And it's just the concept of all events are neutral.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you really understand that, if you really do, then then never you're going to be triggered. You're never going to be triggered because everything is neutral.
Hmm.
But how often are we getting triggered? So it's a concept you can spend time, and then you refine it, you refine it, you refine it. You get to know, okay, oh, I perceived it this way. This
Hmm.
event that happened that has nothing to do with me, or being stuck in traffic as an example, right? Like it's
Hmm.
like my friend Chris Doris, with an amazing coach, would say, it's just traffic moving along slowly.
Hmm.
But for someone that's on vacation and has time to kill, they're going to say, "Oh, that's great. Like, look at this building. I never realized." But someone that has an appointment is going to freak out. So it's exactly the same events, but then there's a perception, then there's also a meaning. So not only there's different angles of perception, then you stack the meaning on top, and then that's a whole different dimension.
Hmm.
So, the point of this little mini story is just to say, now that you build on one concept, the level of awareness with some examples and life examples in a conversation gets to be refined, polished, fine-tuned, and then it becomes more of a knowing. It's not just an understanding. Oh, yeah, 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 I get that.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay, but do you live it?
Hmm.
Is that like a knowing? Like when you're at that level of knowing, which I there's a lot of things that I understood, but until last year and even now I'm knowing it. I
Hmm.
know it. So it's a very different perspective. So and awareness is always increasing. I think it's a never-ending journey. You get more bigger challenges, and then you laugh at it even more. And the
Hmm.
level of suffering is always kind of being diminished. At first, it could be a long process. I'm sure. Like if you talk about your process, I'm sure
Hmm.
it's not easy. Now, if you had that same situation, I bet your courage would be that would take you less time to make a decision like
Hmm.
that, right? If you were feeling the same thing, and I know you don't, but let's say you would,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
you could do it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like that confidence in yourself. It's like going to the gym. It's like working out that muscle of, oh, okay, I've been here before, and understanding that it doesn't actually hurt as much as I had attached to it, like what I had defined it hurt. And so many of those attachments, those meanings, are just stories, right? Just stories that we've been told from. And this is not passing judgment on anyone or
There's no
myself.
judgment at all.
Like
Yeah.
we are who we are, and we've been through what we've been through, and I still believe very, very fully that, like, you are still just like I am still that 8-year-old boy or 12-year-old boy, right? Like we're carrying so much of that with us, um, but not letting those stories hold us back and define who we are today and the actions that we take.
Yeah, because you know what? I mean, I think fundamentally, if you start with another concept that everyone's doing their best with what they
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
that actually, you don't have as much judgment. You're like, okay, so I don't know the story. And, a little story about someone that was at the retreat last week. We had a conversation and we discovered that for her, because she said she was one of the popular kids, and also sometimes people were laughing at her, being, I don't know if it was bullied, but she started to have a belief that if things are good, but if what's wrong with me, like when people were
Hmm.
saying they were, so she started to have a little thing that there's something that's hidden. It's too good to be true.
Hmm.
What's wrong with this situation? It's too good to be true, because for her, in her own belief and story, it was
Hmm.
always about there's something that's going to happen. What's wrong with me?
Hmm.
And she lived her life like that.
Hmm.
From a one event that happened when she was young, and now we kind of unlocked this, and she's like,
Yeah.
like a free,
Potential.
should have seen
Potential.
her smile. Like I think the
Yeah.
smile can reach even like higher. And another funny story is that they say you synchronize your energy centers, and
Hmm.
you can emit like a lot of
Hmm.
vibration and a lot of energy. So she ended up being at the airport, and she was scared also to fly, and so she kind of got rid of it. She just realized that there's so much suffering. It's just a neutral event, and we talked about this too. And she went through the scanner and she got beeped, and they're like, you probably have your bra, like there's something with your bra.
Hmm.
She's like, I'm not even wearing a bra. And then on the scan, she said the image showed where the energy center of the heart was. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was shining so much, and a lot of people have actually talked about this. Like they go through the scanner and they're like, because there's so much, like they're so happy, and then it's in the heart. So we're all laughing in the text group, and we're like, man, this is amazing. And so I mean, when we start to release those beliefs, and we start to release the conditioning that we had over years, we
Mm-hmm.
become free, and it's such an amazing journey. When you get that, ah, that's where it's coming from.
I feel.
You have an event, you decided at 8 years old to just say, "Oh, I'm not good enough,"
Mm-hmm.
and then you live your life this way, and then you're just, well, what if I could have perceived this differently, and what would I tell if it's your own child, right? And something happened like this, you would probably say, "Don't worry, it's not your fault. This
Mm-hmm.
thing, it has nothing to do with you. We love you," and then direction is totally different.
It's amazing as you're describing that story about the friend that you've met at the conference, at the retreat, and then her her like emulating that through her body. Um, I believe it, and like I said when you were speaking earlier, I actually through through my lens, through my digestion of what you were saying, my body reacted in a certain way, whether it was like my temperature rose a little bit or I could feel like tingly, like that. It's a real visceral thing. I think that is a level of awareness piece. And I think some people feel it, but maybe aren't aware of it. And as you're talking about, emitting energy and the heart center and all those things, I feel like still a lot of people that follow my podcast, a lot of people that are even in my life, they don't believe this stuff. And I always go to the 4 minute mile. I always use the 4 minute mile as like the window or the gateway of showing people, not just in my circle, but everywhere. Like you have to understand how limiting we are just with our minds. And the 4 minute mile, which happened a really long time ago, was a perfect example of the power of your mind, the power of your thoughts. And now you've just come from someone who I admire so much from afar. I haven't had the opportunity of attending any of his events, but I do his AM and PM meditations, and I was introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza through a podcast that I actually inexplicably started crying 4 times through the podcast. I can't tell you why, but it touched me that much. But can you speak to the work that you've done, the work also that you do, and how much you've seen when you can take off that limiting belief, when you can take off that govern of the mind, what's possible? Like, what have you witnessed besides, people walking through scanners at airports and them going off? Like,
Yeah,
what have you seen firsthand? What is your 4 minute mile?
yeah, that's a good question. Um, how can I start with this? I'm just gonna go in my heart, but yeah, the beliefs are so powerful. I mean, it really. And I just got a little download of something. And so when I say download for the
Mm,
listeners, it's just like it's a thought. Like I'm not trying. I'm choosing to be empty
mm,
and in stillness, and then something happens,
mm.
and now it's gone. Just
that's that's the beauty of it.
that's it. Now it's not the one. So the beliefs, I think it's a first of all, a belief is I believe is a thought that you repeat over and over and over again.
Mm,
Like internally, it's an inner dialogue, and how the thought comes back actually, and they say, what you see in your life is a direct reflection of your inner dialogue.
mm,
What you have in your life is a direct reflection of your inner dialogue.
mm,
So imagine if you have a fundamental the belief that you're good enough, and that you have unlimited possibilities,
mm,
and that you're also like, and that you're confident,
mm,
so imagine what you would do if you had just these three thoughts and three beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would be able to make phone calls to whoever. You would be able to sell your idea and change the people's mind and influence them and create a ripple effect of with your belief. I mean, it's unbelievable the type of being that you would be
Mm-hmm.
with this thought and this belief. So it's interesting. I've never said it this way, but now I realize that in the belief, there's the word be.
Mm-hmm.
It's being this thought that you recreate all over again, and it becomes your being. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things that I say to people, and the best, like we talked about it already, is work, and that's what you do during the event. That's what you do when you're working with me, is creating this being that can create anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a formula that I'm sure you've heard about it, but it's a be, do, have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I live my life the other way around. It was always, when I'm gonna have that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be able to do this, and then when I do this, then I'll be happy.
Right.
And then you realize that you're just chasing and chasing and chasing the
Mm-hmm.
whole time, and then you get to the goalpost, and then all of a sudden, and then you have another one. It's just a miserable cycle, right? And so the being is the most important thing because you're not gaining confidence with things that you have or that you do. You are confident, and
Mm-hmm.
then you do things the very differently, and
Mm-hmm.
then the outcomes are very different. So
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting about the 4 mile is that, and that's what I like about the documentary, is that it gives an example of people that have done it, and then because now it's a reality for Jan Bannister. No, not Jan Bannister. I don't remember his first name,
Mm-hmm.
but this guy just basically decided inside that
Mm-hmm.
it was possible, that it was true, that it was actually the reality that, and he probably envisioned himself
Mm-hmm.
crossing the finish line, and it was below 4 minutes. So he's the one that created this being, this reality inside first,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became manifested in the reality that we have. And then because of that, some people are looking, oh, it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's possible for him, would that be possible for me? Absolutely. So now I believe that it is possible. So
Mm-hmm.
what if we don't need to wait for anything that to happen externally to be
Mm-hmm.
this person, to have that belief?
Mm-hmm.
I there's another thing. There's a lot of concepts that I throw in, but we work months and months on that with clients. Is you either wait or you create.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us are just waiting for, and I've done that, and still I catch myself, oh, I'm waiting right now. So essentially when you're waiting, you're saying that the environment is bigger than you,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to wait for something to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not empowered. You have to wait for this until you can create. But then you realize, no, I can create it. And so who do I need to be
Mm-hmm.
in order to manifest what I want? So it's a big summary, but I think that's what I work on. It's on the being your full authentic power, your being. Who do you need to be in order to have this partnership, this relationship, this abundance? So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know if you've seen that one from Dr. Joe Dispenza, but he was talking about, manifesting the love of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to be with someone that's positive, well, guess what type of being you need to be?
Mm-hmm.
Negative? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, negative person is gonna attract a positive person. Don't think so. So it's then you gotta be that person,
Mm-hmm.
the direct reflection on the mirror of what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I actually have a pleasure of working with some clients right now, and I tell them that consistently. It's like how does the future you? So we've defined their goals, we define their vision, we define where they want to be, and then I just ask them like, okay, how does he wake up? How does he answer the phone? How does she dress? How does she walk into a room? Okay, then that's what you need to start doing. Does he complain about the weather? Does he complain about Bitcoin? Does he complain? No, he doesn't. He just does. Okay, then do that. Then emulate that. And that's something I think, again, all this data is out there. But here's the challenging piece, and I would love to get your take on this. And this is kind of a two-part question, but I'll chop it down. How do you deal with, and maybe they're prospective clients, maybe they're just family or friends, but they're like, oh, Francis, like, this is just like hocus pocus. This doesn't, like, it doesn't work. It's not about the mindset. that, you know what, maybe it is, but it won't work for me. How do you approach that? What is your, I mean, do you just accept that because you're not in the business of changing people's minds, or perhaps you are, I don't know. How do you navigate that when people are, I don't want to say short-sighted because that's a bit dramatic, but their scope is so narrow perhaps that they just can't see it as being a possibility for them.
Mm, that's funny because I actually there's synchronicities in the air because I was reviewing my notes, and one of the things that, if someone would say something like that, well, I mean, first of all, I would want to discover what's their life. Are they really happy?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, based on whatever they just mentioned, we'd say, what is it? Is it an affirmation?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, or are you making an affirmation right now, or is it true?
Mm-hmm.
Is it always true? That's a couple of free questions you can ask. So for some people that are saying, well, can you change someone's mind that truly believe that that's not going to work for them? I don't think so. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
that's I mean, they're gonna go through maybe a crisis, and then they're gonna have a slap in their face, and then or whatever happened, and then they will maybe change their mind. But if you really, really have that belief, you know what? I mean, I'm not gonna work with you because
Mm-hmm.
you're not willing to be coachable. You're not willing to open your mind. So, and that's okay. Like I have no hard feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was that person too, and then eventually you just get sick of it, and you just realize, well, what am I surrounded in my life? Like, am I really happy?
Mm-hmm.
So again, what is in my life is a direct reflection of my inner dialogue. So then, if this person is happy, well, great. Like maybe I have something to learn from you. But I would, from what I've seen, is that the people that are able to manifest so much in their life, they have the belief that everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
They do have that belief, and they know that this is a being thing. It's being someone that will manifest something different.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said, how would that person walk? How would that person talk? How would that person wake up? Then I think sometimes what I hear from clients after they answer that question, they would say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I got to do this. I got to wake up this way. I got to talk this way. I
Mm-hmm.
have to. I need to." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What did you say? Nobody needs to do anything. Nobody has to do
Mm-hmm.
anything. No, like it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
I get
let's
to.
rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
I get to, I choose to. And the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing with that is that when you say I choose, it's now. And
Mm-hmm.
you are in power. And
Mm-hmm.
so, the girl that I mentioned about, and her own inner, what's wrong with me, she decided. And then the day after, we had a walking meditation, and then said, I'm not sure if I'm going to go. I said, what's your choice?
Mm-hmm.
And then she realized it, and then she said, and then there's a commitment in saying, I choose to be on the beach tomorrow because now it's real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she said, I choose. It's funny, right? Because if you just say I might, that's nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
if you say I choose, then all of a sudden, boom, and she was on the beach because she chose.
Mm-hmm.
When you choose, it's a different thing. So it's very interesting to just in a language, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I mean I love to work with this because I mean and then even myself, I catch myself and I would
Mm-hmm.
erase what I said. Oh, I said I have to. No, I don't. Like I choose. What am I choosing right now?
Yeah, I love that. And the power of language, which you've mentioned as well. And obviously, you work with that with your clients. It's just so powerful. The words that we choose to say, the things that we get to do as opposed to have to do. Like I know a lot of fathers and parents who they say like, "Oh, I have to do that." No, man, you get to do that with your kids. Like, what an honor! Because guess what? There's a lot of people that don't even have kids or don't have the time to spend with their kids because they're working too much or whatever it is. It's just the power in your language, and like you said, your inner dialogue creates your outer existence. But I think even solidifying that even further is the words that we speak. Like if you're not only thinking it, but you're also putting words to it and you're actually expelling those words, I feel like there's even more power in regards to the universe reacting to that and that showing up as your reality. So if you not only think that you're limited, if you not only think that you will never blank, but you also speak that, oh, I never get ahead, or I always am, the last one picked. It's like, okay, that's going to continue to be your reality if that is. And I just feel like that is something as well that I've heard from someone that I follow that I'd love to put you on to if you haven't heard his stuff. Dave Nixon out of Australia. He shares some really powerful things that I think you'd really pick up on. And he was talking about the importance of language, and it escapes me right now the point I was trying to make. But we have to understand as human beings. Oh, now it's coming back to me. He talks about when people say, and a client of mine said this the other day. He said, "Oh, I'm really terrible with taking photos and videos." And I said, same as you. I said, pause. That is a dirty word. What I would prefer that to look like is something I used to be really
Yeah.
bad at taking
Yeah.
photos, but now I'm
Or I'm
working
getting
on.
better and better.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So it's those nuances that just open up so much possibility for us. So I appreciate you picking up on that part of me and sharing that piece, both the internal dialogue that we have with ourselves, but the external as well.
And to go back quickly on, I'm just thinking because I had a thought, some of the people when I say, some people are ready, some are not.
Mm.
I say that with pure compassion.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like again, like they do, everyone's doing with the best with what they have. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I would really in compassion just ask, so how is that thinking serving you right now?
Yeah, but
Is
here,
it really serving you? If you're telling me it is, then so what are you trying to achieve? Why, like just let's have a little conversation and then with love and compassion again, just like maybe they'll open up and say, maybe you're right. Maybe I can see that it's not serving me. So then if it's not serving you, would you be open to empower yourself and get,
hmm
just more freedom, whatever you want to achieve?
hmm
Yes. Are you open to be committed to that? Would you like to choose that?
hmm
I'm not ready. I'm ready. Great. So let me
hmm
know when you are.
hmm yeah, it's
and
such.
and and, uh, and go back on the language as well. Like one of the things that I like, I'm sure you've heard that too, is when people would say, uh, "I don't have the money,"
hmm hmm
uh, or "I'd like to go," or "I'd like to do this, but I don't have the money."
hmm
And what if you can just replace that by "and" in the middle? Because when you say "but," you're just negating the whole possibility of
hmm
going or doing something. And so the fact that you don't have the money might be true in your bank account, except that when you say "and I don't have the money," now the next question is, how do you generate it?
hmm
How can you make it possible? So now there's unlimited amount of possibilities. What if you're asking a best friend money?
hmm
Oh, no, I can't do that. Well, that's a choice then. What if you go to the bank and ask for
hmm
a loan? What if you choose to get rid of something at home and you make money out of it? What if you choose to offer your
hmm
own services about whatever? Like there's unlimited amount of possibilities. What if you choose to have your RSP taken? Oh, no, no, I don't want to. Well, that's a choice then.
hmm
So
yeah.
it's more about like being responsible and empowered by your own choice. And
hmm
there's so many possibilities. I used my RSPs last year because of what happened.
hmm
And then, and I was afraid not to use it for a long time. And then I
hmm
realized, man, that's suffering. So, and also it for this situation about money, for example, it would mean that I have the belief that I'm not gonna get it back.
Exactly.
So
Just
I
yeah.
wanna I wanna keep it. But if I change my belief and I say,
hmm
no, I know I'm gonna get way more than that. I'm gonna
hmm
generate way more than that. So why would you be afraid then?
hmm
Okay, let's put it out. And the beauty of that also is that not only it unlocks a fear,
hmm
and it creates a flow.
hmm
And then now like it's circulating, and then
hmm
you make like you pay the bills or whatever you have to do, and then it's just a beautiful cycle. And then you believe in yourself and you do it, and you're just like, I'm investing in me.
hmm
That's the most important asset you can invest into. And then with this new being that you're creating, imagine the possibilities you can have in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, we could sit here probably for 6 hours and plus and do this, whether it's relationships or money or beliefs or whatever. One thing I really wanted to tackle with you, and this just came up for me last evening in a conversation with my stepmother. And I'm gonna read you a post of my own that I put up on social media yesterday, and which
Is it
my
I love my stepmother?
yeah, no, but I do though. But I do.
No.
It wasn't that, but I do
No,
love
no, it's not
it.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So this was what I posted, and this then facilitated a 90-minute conversation where we just were talking circles. So the post is this. It says, if you can fail doing what you love and you can fail doing something you don't love, why would you ever just not do what you love? Right? So the conversation then proceeded because she found it to be very negative because it talks about failure. And this is like a multiple layers to this conversation that we had. One, I believe there is a large portion of the population that looks at failure as a negative, whereas I look at failure as an extreme positive. And then that conversation then led to seeking discomfort and why I seek discomfort and why I actually loathe comfort. And why do I loathe comfort? Why do I loathe always winning? Is because there's no growth there. So for you, how do you approach discomfort? How do you approach failure? Are you seeking it or are you avoiding it?
It's a question. It's a good question. I think I would say either neither or, meaning, and the reason why I say that is because if I say I'm seeking, that's where I'm like that's where I put my attention,
Right?
right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it seems to me, but it's just a perception that it's a chasing the victory.
Right.
And then if I avoid, then I'm in resistance, and then it will most probably stay. So I think what I would say is that I choose how I want to be and
Mm-hmm,
how I see myself in the future. And when something happens, only when, like,
mm-hmm,
what's the point? Like, let's say you go to a roller coaster and there's an hour lineup.
mm-hmm,
What's the point of being afraid for an hour?
mm-hmm.
You're not even in it.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you realize that you suffer for a full hour in a wait in the lineup, and then you're click, 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 click,
yeah.
click, 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 going. You're not even in, but you just have all these thoughts about the future. Oh my God, like it's gonna happen, and then you're on top, and then you start, and then it dissipates. Like you're like, whoa, this is amazing. But then you had like this hour before of suffering, just like crazy, right? So to me, I don't spend I'm choosing not to spend a lot of time in expecting. I'm
Mm-hmm,
expecting something positive, and if I expect something negative, I know I'm going to suffer.
mm-hmm,
So then, might as well just set my intention, and then when there's an event that's neutral,
mm-hmm,
some people can call it a failure, but
mm-hmm.
this is really just a result. Then I get to choose how I want to respond to it.
Yeah, I
I get to
guess.
choose how I want to.
Yeah, and I think when I wrote that quote and when I talk about failure, it's really just giving giving outcomes a label that probably society would give it. So for example, my marriage ended. I look at that as a marriage failing, but I don't look at that as a negative. I look at that as very much a positive because one, I get to define that event in my life, and two, if I didn't go through that discomfort, if I didn't experience that uncomfortable moment, I wouldn't have what I have today. So that's why when I say I seek discomfort, I seek it from a place of knowing that it's like kale. I don't love kale, but I know it's really good for me. Do you know what I mean? I don't love having awkward conversations with people that I love, but I know it's really good for us. And I all of these things. I don't love stepping into a room where I don't know anybody, but I kind of do because guess what?
So,
I'm going to
yeah.
learn a bunch.
So for me, and that's my personal choice, based on what you say, I would say
Mm.
I embrace the
Mhm.
discomfort.
Mhm.
Meaning, when that happens, it's not that I'm seeking and I want it.
Yes.
I embrace it when it happened.
Mhm.
It happened, I embrace it. And, I did Vipassana last year, which, was very powerful, 10-day silent
Yeah.
meditation,
Yeah.
and there's a moment where, you had an hour not to, they requested not to move. And, your mind's going crazy because you're like, why did I choose this position? And then your knuckles are on the ground, like, oh my God, it's so painful.
Mhm.
And then you realize that it's a great learning about observing the sensation, not the pain, being detached. And then I made a decision. Let's go through it. Let's go
Mhm.
through this pain. Let's feel it. Let's
Yeah.
just, and even
Yeah.
yesterday, I get it gets better and better because I was playing volleyball. I love
Nice.
volleyball, right?
Yeah.
So I was playing volleyball on the beach, and then I didn't know that under the thick, not a thin amount of sand. There was concrete, so I scraped like my knee on it. And yesterday, while I was traveling in the airport, and the whole day, right, like it started to dry up, and I'm trying to remove my bandage, and it's like want to pull the skin again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, ah. So now I'm going to in the shower, put the water in it, and then I'm thinking at first you just want to resist, right? You
Yeah.
want to resist, and you can have an analogy with failure. You want to
Mm-hmm.
resist, and then I thought, no, 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 let's go through this feeling, like when I was in a meditation. Let's go through it, and then there's a lot of sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be heat, could be so many, and then it's fascinating, and then it stops. It stops. This is what happened to me is that at one point after an hour, it completely dissipated because I
Mm-hmm.
embraced it. I
Mm-hmm.
went through it instead of saying, yeah, yeah. And then that resistance, it just creates more pain, more suffering, more this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided, you know what? I'm embracing it. So for me, when I have a tough time, one, I expect that there's going to be a breakthrough. So I immediately think, oh, my coach would say your shit is your gold.
Right.
And what if, and for you, I'm sure, like you can say your ending a relationship was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, I talked to a guy yesterday on the bus, and he said there's a technique that basically was kind of reaching, putting your hand behind, taking almost the stuff from the past that's really bad or failure,
Mm-hmm.
and bring it to the heart as a gift. So you
Mm-hmm.
do that, this motion, and then this motion like that is actually sharing it,
Mm-hmm.
sharing your gift to the people. So it's reaching the past now as a gift, giving it, and so you do this motion apparently, and I'm sure it's very powerful. I can imagine. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think that like it was a failure or how you want to call it. And again, it's a label, but
Mm-hmm.
and then you bring it. That's a gift. I share it. That's a gift. I share it. And now you just in your own life, you get to help people that are probably going through this thing because
Mm-hmm.
you've lived it. It
Mm-hmm.
is a beautiful gift,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I appreciate you sharing that sincerely. That language. Again, we just talked about language and how important it is, but I can see how me describing it in that I seek discomfort is no, I embrace discomfort, and that is true. Like you didn't purposefully scrape your knee and then say, oh, I'm gonna go into the shower and make it hurt. There are people like that, and there's no judgment. There are people that like literally will
Yeah.
put the like the David Goggins of the world. From where I stand, he kind of like he seeks that pain.
Hmm.
But maybe him himself would even just say, no, I actually just embrace the pain. I put myself in situations for growth that could be painful, and when I start to experience that, like you in that 1 hour stillness, you learn to embrace it, and you don't run from it. And
Exactly.
that's something that I through Tony Robbins have learned, and it's been shared, millions of times. Like kind of the human flaw, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will do to seek pleasure. And it's just when you sit and you like ruminate on that, or you look at the words, you're like, wow, how messed up is that? We will do more to avoid pain, whether it's social media, whether it's avoiding conversations, whether it's emotional eating, whatever it is. We will put more effort into those things that don't serve us than we will to going after the dreams that we actually have.
Exactly. And it's funny because the pain can be on both sides, right? Until there's like, you could be, let's say, go back to the analogy of jail.
Mm-hmm.
If you start to see that the pain inside the jail is bigger than outside, then you're out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see that the perceived pain on the outside is bigger, then you stay
Mm-hmm.
until you change your perception, until you're like, this is way too. And we are capable of so much because imagine, and it's not going to happen. Like just an example. But what if I would say, your son has something and, he needs to be operated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Brad, if we don't get $250,000 by tomorrow, he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
What would you be willing to do for your son?
Yeah, absolutely anything. Like, get out of my way. Like, it's gonna happen.
Right? Like you just like you make those freaking phone calls. You just like do it until you die. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, let's go find it. I'll pay it back, whatever. You would do
Yeah.
anything for it
Mm-hmm.
because that matters. And so now the question for people that would listen and they're thinking about coaching, how do you matter?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Yeah.
would you put yourself on, why would you not even give you this opportunity to grow and be that beautiful, amazing person,
Hmm.
right? That's really ultimately. So then at the end, and then you realize, man, yeah, there's just no excuse. Because if I would be willing to do it for my son
Hmm.
or my daughter or my friend or my mom, dad,
Whoever.
whatever,
Yeah.
why would I not do it for me?
Why is that the case? Why are we, again, general statement, but why are we as humans programmed that way?
Well, I think it goes with it's always fear. Like there's this, it's fear at the
Hmm.
end of the day, I think, and
Hmm.
then also our brain is conditioned to really always predict what's going to happen. You know,
Hmm.
it was very useful before, right? Oh, there's a sound. Oh, I heard that sound. Somebody died the last time the sound happened in the jungle. I'm going to pay attention to that sound too. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, ooh, ooh, oh, okay. So he's like, but in life, there's nothing like this, and so we're all trying to predict, and I think it's good that it's going to a segue of environment.
Mhm.
So what type of environment you are in. So for some of the people that are not doing it, maybe they're not in the environment that are with friends or
Mhm.
that are doing it, right? And when you start to see the possibilities and see that some people are so happy, they're enlivened, they're so then you're like, why would I not have access to that? You can, like we can all have access to that. And so I think that sometimes it's like again, it's going back to you do the best with what you have.
Mhm.
And then you might see and perceive that it's not possible until you see from your own eyes that your friends doing it, other people
Yeah.
that are real, not just,
Yeah.
it's true, it happens.
Yeah.
And like I heard from a friend during the retreat, and that's fast. That's funny. It's you're talking about belief. The guy I think had a hard time to walk, and I don't know if he was with a walker or something.
Mhm.
There was a volunteer that was behind him, and then my friend didn't feel that good for this walking meditation, but this man inspired him, and the reason is that at one point apparently he decided to run. He ran, and then the volunteer that's behind is trying to catch him, and there's a lot of people, and this guy's running, but running fast. And then he said, I will always remember the volunteer stopped at one point, being out of breath, because the guy decided is like that. I am this person that can run, and he's running fast. The volunteer has a hard time to follow. Like imagine he's like, oh, I'm just gonna take care of
Yeah.
this man
Yeah.
like today, and then he's leaving. Oh shit! And then he's going. So it's beautiful when you make this decision, when you
Mhm.
choose that it's possible. Boom, you're running. You're just doing it. And
Literally.
sometimes it's with the pain, like you said. It could be, I can't sustain this pain anymore. I'm assuming that for you, you said I can't see myself happy
Mhm.
in this relationship. That this is not good. Like I don't see myself living this life this
Mhm.
way anymore. And then you're serving also the other person because you're giving space for this person, beautiful
Mhm.
human being, to also get to discover someone and herself, and then
Mhm.
the love that's now together, right?
Yeah. Powerful stuff, man. That's a really cool story about the person running, and those are the things. A lot of people need to see it to believe it. But these quote unquote miracles are happening all around us every single day, whether it's new lives being born or you realizing that you really are in charge of everything that you experience.
So you say that, and it's funny. I just have a good download, which is when you say you need to, well, you
Mm-hmm.
choose to see it in order
Mm-hmm.
to believe it. Let's say I think it's true, and what I mean by that is that it not externally,
Mm-hmm.
internally.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see it in your brain before it's manifested and you believe that it's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
then it will happen. It
Yeah.
will happen. The difference is that some people want to see it manifested in this reality first
Before they believe
until they
it. Yeah.
decide to be this person, and then it never happens until the day that they say, oh, I have to see it and feel it inside me, and
Mm-hmm.
then that's going to show up. Like Bannister decided to see and feel in his mind that it was possible,
Mm-hmm.
and then guess what? That was possible. And then we were lucky to witness that and say, what if I'm a human being too?
Mm-hmm.
If he's able to do it, if I repeat what he's done, I think there's a chance that I will do it. And that's why a few months after, like I don't know how many
Yeah.
like broke the record, like just because they saw it.
Yeah. Or maybe you didn't even see it. They read it somewhere. right?
Yeah,
And then
and
but
they
then they
believed
felt
it
it.
inside
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Powerful stuff, man.
yeah.
I want to respect your time, but before I do let you go, I have a few things that I want to run by you. First and foremost, if people are intrigued by what you've shared and are intrigued to learn more about you, how can I help support you? How can they reach out and connect with you best?
Two ways. If they're interested about group coaching or coaching, francispiche.com. And then about anything that's relates to resilience element. So it's resilience, the word resilience element.com. Then with that, that's the documentary, so people can kind of learn about what we're going to do. That's this year, so they're going to have surprises. We have some people that already said yes to be in it, and now I choose to create the possibility of having a filmmaker that will say, "I love this project, let's go," and put it on Netflix. That's what I choose to create. That's my
Amazing.
declaration. It's going to happen. So even in 2 weeks, we're going to have a meeting with someone that is a filmmaker, and now it's just like I decided, I chose to
Hmm.
believe that. So
Hmm.
I think maybe the best way is francispiche.com, and I'd be more than happy to help as many people as possible.
I love it, man. And before I do let you go officially, can you share some of the tools, maybe some daily practices that you do to stay at that peak level of personal growth that maybe they can be implementing in their life, whether it's morning manifestation, whether it's daily affirmations, whether it's yoga, is there or water consumption? Is there anything that's tangible that my listeners can download right now and start implementing in their life to perhaps allow them to see what is truly potential?
What comes to mind first is I would say meditation for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, like you say, water. Yeah, I have filtered water. Like just remove. I think what you put inside your body is very important.
Mm-hmm.
As a practical thing, here's a mini stories of why meditation for me is so important. Is because there's so much distraction. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much noise around,
Mm-hmm.
negative or whatnot, then like we can't think. How can you leave space to creativity if you don't if you just have this bombardment? So
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful thing about meditation, even if you think that you don't have time, is that it's going to create space
Mm-hmm.
for creativity. So there was a month ago, I was asked to do a webinar to HR leaders, and it came out of nowhere, and it was for the week after, and I'm thinking, oh my god, wow, like just like this is the Joe Dispenza works, it's like anything. So then the woman is saying, can you give us a description of this, and by the hour, and then I started to be a little bit stressed, and so I'm saying that because I feel that there's a lot of people that are being
Mm-hmm.
stressed right now, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, with what happened in their life. And so what I decided to do is that in that hour, instead of spending 60 minutes on trying to force the outcome and find the solution, I went to meditate for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be clear. I wanted to be in stillness, which, by the way, there's a book that I'm reading right now. Great. It's called Stillness is the
Yeah,
Key,
Ryan Holiday. Yeah.
by Ryan Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that intuitively. So I decided to meditate. And then I was calm.
Mm-hmm.
My heartbeat was better. I was able to think. I was not in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to my computer, and then the woman said, "Oh, I just did the description. Just let me know what you think." so so now I'm reading it, and it's perfect. There's only maybe 4 words that I needed to change. I'm thinking, wow, this is great. I spent 20 minutes
Mm-hmm.
like being the best version of myself. Come back, it's done. 40 minutes left for me for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just done. And so I think that for me, that's one thing that I do every day:
Mm-hmm.
meditation in the morning and at night. And during the day, if I'm really stressed out, I'll spend the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes to really slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is, once you start to know that every time you do it, the perception that you used to have was, I'm spending time and that's going to take away from what I'm supposed to do. When you take that out and you know that it's actually adding you more time because you're
Mm-hmm.
more productive, you have more clarity,
Mm-hmm.
you say no to things that are, because when you're in panic mode, you're going to say, oh yeah, 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 this thing, this thing, this thing. But
Mm-hmm.
then when you're calm and still,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to say, you know what, this, I'll do it another time. I'll
Mm-hmm.
focus on that now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're in the moment and you do it. So that's I think what I would say for people: this meditation to create the space. And it's going back to, imagine the 3 days, what type of clarity you can get.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that this is an exercise that's so powerful that could be created every year. And I've done that every year because 10 days meditation silent or whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much clarity. And then I know like a laser
Mm-hmm.
exactly what serves me, what I want to do. And that's what I wish to everyone, to really know what makes them happy. Like
Mm-hmm.
my godfather would say, what does make your heart come alive?
Mm-hmm.
Do what makes your heart come alive.
Mm-hmm. Powerful, man. Well, I think that's a great spot to end it. I want to say thank you so much for holding space and time for me. I say this to all my guests, and I say it because I mean it to the marrow of my bones. Time is the most valuable thing that we have. So thank you for yours today, my friend. It's awesome to reconnect with you. It's awesome to see your face, and it's so cool in every definition of the word to see you doing what you're doing. And I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud to call you a friend and feel lucky to have spent so much time with you and now still be connected. So thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I love you, brother. Thank you so much, Brad.
I love you too. And thank you guys for tuning in as you do week after week. If it wasn't for you guys, this show wouldn't exist. That is Francis. I am Brad. This is the Brad Bondarchuk podcast. You guys know what to do. Until next time, be good and do good. Peace. We did it, dude. Done.
Done. The recording looks, and then I'll wait until, yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun, man.
Dude, you did awesome.